Good day, panel. Today, myself, Jürgen Stein, and Lana Stradom will be presenting our research project on the optimal herd structure for milk maximization on dairy farms, with the case of Jersey cattle in South Africa being the main focus. To give you some context, the South African dairy industry is robust, ranking as the fourth largest agricultural sector in the country. It contributes around 25 billion rand to the national economy, with major production centered in the Western Cape, KZN, and the Eastern Cape. The national dairy herd is approximately 1.6 million cattle, with about 600,000 cows in milk. The industry supports a large workforce, employing around 60,000 direct and 40,000 indirect workers. Herd composition is the central concept of our work. As defined in our research, it is the proportion of different animal groups on a dairy farm. Optimizing this composition involves balancing key ratios, including the herd's average lactation number, the ratio of lactating cows to dry cows, and the ratio of heifers to mature cows. We look at the farm's population in two broad groups: the lactating animals, which generate revenue, and the non-lactating animals, which represent the necessary rearing costs for long-term sustainability. The question is, what are the ideal ratios to maximize milk output? This leads us directly to the problem statement that drove our research. There is currently no widely accepted answer to what the ideal herd structure of a dairy farm should look like to optimize milk production and revenue. Our goal was to answer the primary research question, which is considering all the biological constraints of a dairy herd, what herd composition would maximize milk yield while being a sustainable operation. We also investigated whether the optimal composition varies with changes in herd size and time horizon.
Several biological factors influence how a dairy herd is managed and how profitable it can be. Key aspects include the gestation period, age at first calving, the productive lifetime of dairy cows, the lactation and dry periods, days open, inter-calving period, and the herd's replacement and culling rates. Together, these determine the herd structure and overall milk production efficiency. The age at first calving is the age of a heifer when she calves for the first time. For Jersey cows, this should ideally be around 24 months. The productive lifetime of dairy cows are around 5 lactations. Thereafter, their milk production starts declining. Extending the AFC to 30 months can reduce profit margins by up to 13% per litre of milk. The intercalving period is the time measured in days between two consecutive calvings of a cow. In theory, cows have an ICP of 365 days, a calf a year, but in reality it's around 400 days. A shorter, well-managed calving interval improves milk yield per year and overall herd productivity. However, if cows take too long to conceive again, it leads to fewer lactations, lower production, and greater economic losses for the farmer. The lactation cycle of dairy cows typically lasts about 300 to 305 days, with peak milk yield occurring between 30 and 60 days in milk. Cows are then dried off about 50 to 60 days before calving again. The shape of the lactation curve will generally be the same for all cows. It only shifts up or down as some cows produce more than others. Culling and replacement rates are two very important figures in dairy herd management. Voluntary culling in a herd should be below 25% and involuntary culling below 10%. Replacement rates for dairy herds usually vary between 25 and 33%, depending on whether the herd is stable or expanding. The table below shows the effect of different replacement rates on the milk production of Jersey and Holstein cows, but for the sake of time, we can rather refer back to it during questions if needed. Herd structure refers to the proportion of different animal groups in a dairy herd, such as calves, heifers, and cows at various lactation stages. Literature suggests that the ratio of heifers to cows should be 48 to 52, and that 82% of the milking herd should always be in milk. It's important to realize that even though first lactation cows make up around 35% of the milking herd, they only produce 25% of the total milk. According to an industry expert from a research article in 2007, the ideal dairy herd has 48% lactating animals, with 26% of them being first lactators. When we look at a survey done by the MPO in 2022, we see that the average dairy herd in South Africa has 53% lactating animals and 47% non-lactating. All this literature and data leads to more questions than answers. What should your herd structure actually be?
The variables that will be analyzed in studies are the cows that are in their respective parities, which is illustrated by x1 to x5, where the numbers indicate the lactation parities, heifers that are indicated by x6, and calves that are indicated by x7. The data we used was provided to us by Dairy Junction Pty, which is a dairy consultation company in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal area. The goal of this study was to maximize milk production. Therefore, we considered using a linear programming model to find the most optimal solution. However, it is very mathematically complicated. Therefore, we decided to use a genetic algorithm program that is offered by R Studios. The GA or genetic algorithm model works as indicated in the left-hand side image. It generates a random population that is composed of the variables x1 to x7. The fitness of this population and each respective value is analyzed based on the fitness value function. This function does not show the total milk yield. For the first population, the convergence check is redundant. The GA then enters into the genetic operators where values are selected, crossed with each other, and mutated to then form the next population. The GA works on the principle of survival of the fittest, where the values with the best, so to say, traits advance to the next population and the rest are replaced. This process will continue until a predefined number of consecutive populations all achieve the same fitness function. At this point, the GA is terminated and the most optimal herd composition has been found. This process is illustrated by the image on the right-hand side. This slide shows the parameters that each GA run was subject to. These parameters are supposed to simulate natural biological constraints that are faced in a dairy operation. Stable herd sizes, no more than 5 lactation for each cow, the lactating cycle in terms of lactating days and dry days, gestation rules, pregnancy and insemination rules, and mortality and aging rules. The result that was obtained by the GA shows that the base herd has too much heifers and calves and too few cows that are in the later stage of lactation. This is true across both herd sizes and time periods. According to the results, an average commercial herd that wants to achieve the highest quantity of milk possible in a 10-year period needs to have the following animals: 30 cows that are in the first parity of lactation, 83 that are in the second parity, 303 in the third, 361 in the fourth, 328 in the fifth, 20 heifers, and 87 calves. We find the results for run 3 to be the most significant for commercial farmers, since the average commercial herd size is used in combination with a long time frame. The results show that optimizing the herd structure increases quantity of milk by 8.38% over the 10-year period. This equates to almost a 2.5 million rand increase in milk value annually. This increase in value comes at virtually no cost to the farmers.
In this table, we summarized our results and their impact. The first row shows the base herd and its composition, while the rows below display runs 1 to 4, each with its optimal herd composition as determined by the GA model. We focused mainly on run 3, as it is the most relevant to modern commercial dairy farms. It's important to note that there isn't a single standard optimal herd composition for all herds. The ideal structure varies depending on herd size and the time horizon considered. Across all 4 scenarios, we observed a clear improvement in production compared to the base herd. As mentioned earlier, the results indicate that real dairy herds typically have too many calves and heifers and too few lactating cows, particularly cows in their 3rd to 5th lactations. The increases of 10.65 and 8.38% suggest that larger herds are likely to benefit the most from optimized herd compositions. However, the impact on smaller herds should not be overlooked. An increase in revenue of up to 1 million rand is substantial for any business, especially a smaller scale operation.
In summary, our genetic algorithm model analysis confirmed that the current average Jersey herd structures are not fully optimal. The good news is that an optimized herd composition can bolster milk yield by 5 to 11% over the base herd. A consistent finding was that larger commercial herds benefit more significantly from this optimization. The core issue we found in existing herds is too many non-lactating animals, which lowers profitability. Our optimal model showed that focusing on older lactating cows dramatically improves milk output and revenue. For commercial farmers, embracing the data-driven tools like genetic algorithms is essential to unlock this potential and enhance herd efficiency. Based on the model's findings, we strongly recommend that farmers reduce the non-lactating animal portion to below 20% of the total herd, actively manage the herd to keep more third through fifth lactation cows for higher yields, utilize tools like sex semen to manage replacement animal numbers better, and finally, make the continuous monitoring of herd structure a priority using data models and consulting expertise. Adopting these optimal structures will improve financial viability and ensure a more sustainable dairy operation.